Welcome back to the book review of Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Book 3, Chapter 6, Christian Marriage. We're going to focus on how Christian view of marriage is different than the world view. Before we get into the text, let's think about marriage and getting married situation. When someone's married, a lot of times that's all we see, but many other people who are not getting married have some kind of premarital relationship. Out of those people, some people who are in love take the next step of getting married. A lot of times people have children. Unfortunately, during the marriage, people face some irreconcilable differences. When that happens, in many occasions, people take the route of divorce. And after the divorce, they may meet someone else and fall in love again. When that happens, they take the next step of getting married with that person. And in that marriage, often they have children as well. And do they all live happily ever after? Not always. They may encounter irreconcilable differences again, and they repeat the same process. It's not really hard to meet a person who went through divorce once or twice in their lifetime. And we're not going to talk about how much divorce and broken family issues contribute to our social issues today. That's for another time. But this is a vicious cycle. So we're going to look at what does the Bible say about marriage in this chapter. Christian idea of marriage is based on the Word of God, and it describes marriage as a single organism. The Bible uses the term one flesh. So Christianity teaches that marriage is for life. A lot of people know this in theory, but practicing is very challenging in this society. And one thing we need to point out is we're not saying that there's anything wrong about sexual pleasure. It becomes a problem when you are isolating that pleasure and try to get it by itself without getting married. And he talked about that a little more in chapter 5 of book 3, sexual morality section. But in this chapter, he was using the expression the monstrosity of sexual intercourse outside marriage, which causes a lot of issues in this society as well. Even though we have various denominations in Christianity, they all disagree with the modern view that divorce is a simple readjustment of partners. If a relationship with one partner does not work out, then let's find a new partner to improve my happiness. Or when either of them falls in love with someone else, let's go through divorce process. That's better for all of us. That's the modern view of marriage and divorce, but Christians overall, they do not agree with this approach. C.S. Lewis was saying that we have to revisit the meaning of justice, which includes the keeping of promises. And he's pointing out the people who are getting married in a church setting, they are making a public, solemn promise to stick to his or her spouse until death. The duty of keeping that promise has no special connection with sexual morality. It is worth noting that this vow that they're making, the solemn promise that they're making in church, has no condition and no strings attached to that vow. And C.S. Lewis pointed out that it is in the same position as any other promise, just like any other promises that you make. So when we say that's the way it's supposed to be, someone may say the promise made in church is a mere formality and never intended to keep it. This is just formality. We just want to go through this wedding ceremony in church, and that's all it is. Of course, we have good intention, but when things go bad, then we are not bound by this promise that we're making. So for that person, we have to ask a question. Whom was he or she trying to deceive when that person made that promise? Let's remember, this is in church setting. So were you trying to deceive God? Not a good idea. How about yourself? Deceiving yourself is not a good idea either. And how about the people who attended the wedding? in-laws, relatives, and friends, not a good idea. So this argument does not really make any sense. And this is a very important point that C.S. Lewis made. If being in love is the only reason for remaining married, it leaves no room for marriage as a contract or promise at all. No one can make a promise that we are going to have a same feeling forever. So he continues, if love is the whole thing, then the promise can add nothing. What's the point of making the promise then, if it does not add anything? So his logic flows from here. If love is the whole thing, then the promise can add nothing. If it adds nothing, then it should not be made. If you don't see any point of making this promise at the wedding, just arrange a wedding party the way you want to without this promise, because it does not add any value. So he pointed out one more time, being in love is not merely a feeling, it's a deep unity. Why is this important? Because the worldly view of being in love is purely emotional in many cases, but biblically speaking, being in love is more than emotion that you have. So let me demonstrate it this way. You fall in love with someone, and you both agree to make a promise, means fidelity. I'll stay with you forever. And then C.S. Lewis uses this term, this quieter love. It's not merely based on your emotion. It enables them to keep the promise. It is on this love that the engine of marriage is run. Then what's the value of being in love? Well, that's the explosive that started the entire journey. So with that, everything started. But down the road, you're going to learn how to enjoy the quieter love that he's mentioning here, and that will keep your marriage going. And C.S. Lewis gives us a further analogy about this situation. In life, thrills come at the beginning and do not last. And second bullet point, the dying away of the first thrill will be compensated for by a quieter and more lasting kind of interest. And he gave us a prime example here. It is much better fun to learn to swim than to go on endlessly and hopelessly trying to get back the feeling you had when you first went pedaling as a small boy. Imagine yourself that you're so excited about the swimming pool, the first experience when you are a little child. But now you're in your 30s and 40s, you go back to the swimming pool and you keep on looking for the way to get back that feeling you had when you were a small child. But you're missing the whole point then. You have to learn how to swim, and you can enjoy that different level of entertainment there. The feeling of being in love, that's the starting point of your marriage. However, that quieter love that you acquire and cherish down the road, that'll keep your marriage going. In conclusion, if you go back to Matthew chapter 19, when those religious leaders asked about divorce situation, Jesus answered them back this way. Have you not read that he who created them, meaning God, from the beginning made them male and female? That's another topic that we may have to delve into in a separate video. The marriage is between male and female, according to the Bible, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh, single organism. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. And as a conclusion, he said, what therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. Meaning divorce is not acceptable. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, divorce and broken family settings contribute to our social issues that we face every single day. Biblically speaking, the marriage is forever, and that goes both husband and wife. They both need to have the same understanding about marriage when they're making promises. And that will make our society healthy. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below under the video. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in Book 3, Chapter 7, on the topic of forgiveness. Thank you.